Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and I suppose a certain amount of repetition is necessary when you live in a country where the government doesn't learn lessons and the media fail to focus people's attentions on what matters most when it matters most. In that spirit, I'll be discussing once again the way our Brexit mindset has set in motion an almighty kick to our economy that even Boris Johnson didn't want. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So last week sort of went like this. I saw CNN were reporting on how the UK was not permitted to remain a member of the Lugano Convention. I'll discuss what that is in a moment. And it's a massive problem for anyone who wants to trade with Europe or anyone in the who provides these legal financial services in the UK. It's not just businesses, even individuals. But it is a particular problem for businesses, and it is a massive problem for the legal services industry. But it went like this. I see CNN now raising this issue. Oh, I thought I talked about this months ago. Hey, Phil, what about doing a video on this massive news story? Yeah, I talked about it already. I'm not sure I've got anything new to add. Hey, Phil, have you heard about this Lugano story? Yeah, I have. About 6 months ago, in fact. I even updated it 3 months ago with the current situation. Hey, Phil. Yes, I get it. I need to do another video on it now. Fine. So, the Lugano Convention. Scenario. Imagine you have a British-based business and you are trading with someone in, say, Belgium. You have a contract, but you don't think the other party is fulfilling its side of the bargain. So what has to happen now is you'd need to take part in legal action. You've talked to them. They're insisting that they're not going to do anything different. So you go, right, we've got to go down the legal action route now. So you need to engage a solicitor in Belgium to represent you in a Belgian court. This would be rather difficult and expensive for you because you don't live in Belgium. You may not even speak the language. This is a huge faff and gives charlatans in cross-border business a bit of an advantage, in that it can often be more expensive to take them to court than to do nothing about their behaviour. But enter the Lugano Convention. Membership of this allows you to engage a solicitor in your own country. In fact, in any country that's part of the scheme, in fact, wherever it's most convenient to you. It's a system that recognises the jurisdiction of courts throughout the member states. In this way, it is as easy to take your Belgian trading partner to court as one in your own country. And you may be thinking, well, okay, yes, I can see how that would be useful. But how often is it actually used? Will it really make that much difference to our economic performance if we aren't in the Lugano Convention? Which is a good question. And the best way I can answer it, I think, is to point out that Boris Johnson has ripped us out of almost all forms of European cooperation. He's taken us out the Erasmus programme, which I may need to update on this week because that's going a bit wrong. But why did he do that? It didn't require us to align ourselves with any EU standards or laws. Why do it? It was purely out of spite. He took us out of all sorts of European agencies that regulate aspects of our economy that still need to be done in the same way. It's now costing us much more to set up our own identical agencies to do exactly the same work. Johnson has not merely moved us away from areas of cooperation that tied us to EU standards and rules, but away from anything that is linked to any form of cross-European cooperation at all. This hasn't been a serious policy decision. This is Brexit dogma. And yet, he wanted us to remain members of the Lugano Convention. Now, consider that this is something that works both ways. It would, in theory, give EU courts jurisdiction in the UK over certain matters. Well, this is tantamount to doing a deal with the devil. We mustn't have any courts in the EU having jurisdiction in the UK. It would allow a Belgian company to take a British company to court, and if they wanted, have that case heard and decided in a Belgian court. Surely this sort of system would be dead against the Brexit mindset. Surely even the principle of it would make it even more important to leave Lugano than Erasmus. But no, Johnson wanted us to be part of the Lugano Convention. That's how important it is to our economy. The very idea is dead against the hard Brexit philosophy. But it is so vital to us, to our economy, that they couldn't afford to let their dogma get in the way of this one. Not that the economic impact is measured in the way that British-based businesses can access dispute resolution, but because most of the legal caseload for businesses across Europe was taken in British-based legal firms anyway. You know, given that you could engage your legal representation anywhere, London, well, the UK in general, actually, they're not all in London, built up a hub of legal services that became highly specialised in this area, to the point where actually you'd get French companies having a beef with a Norwegian company and they'd still engage the UK-based solicitors. It's like this one-stop shop. And those services are worth a fortune to us. Only we're not going to become members of Lugano as things stand. And I'll tell you why. Because although this is now gaining a second wind via the CNN reporting, it was actually the Financial Times that reported on this at the start of the year. And that's where it caught my attention, first of all. Actually, the Financial Times is very good for economic Brexit news. Like most papers, it lobbies for a particular group. You always have to be mindful of the group it's lobbying for. In this case, the wealthiest people who basically own us all. So it's not exactly aligned with our interests. That being said, you have some newspapers, like say the Daily Mail, who they're lobbying on behalf of their billionaire owners. And so they're trying to con their readership. The Financial Times is a bit different. It needs to actually inform its readers, not con them. So you do get to see things that like this nice and early, and you do get to see quite frank reports, because it's not in their interest to hoodwink their readers. But when it was first reported, if there were doubts that would be allowed to join, and all current members have to unanimously agree, and then it's not just the EU, there are non-EU countries as well, like Switzerland and Norway, for example. There wasn't any doubt at the start of this year that the EU would back us. In fact, I think the greater issue was, I think Switzerland or Norway were being a bit, I'm not sure, but I think they've fallen behind us now. But the EU's position at the time was that we should be allowed to join, absolutely. But then in April, I did an update video. The position had changed then. Now all of a sudden, it looked good for us getting membership, but now the EU was saying no. And this is because a month earlier in March, we announced our intention to unilaterally ignore bits of the Northern Ireland Protocol that we didn't like. After some diplomatic wrangling behind the scenes, the EU Commission came to the conclusion that it didn't make sense for them to do us any favours while we were reneging on agreements with them. Put simply, if you'd followed this story from early in 2021 to now, it would appear that had we engaged with our Brexit agreements in good faith, no issue at all with our being members of Lugano. Not at all. And our service sector needs all the help it can get. We are a service-based economy, and yet the trade and cooperation agreement that we struck with the EU focused on goods, not services. When we say that the EU got what they wanted from the deal and we didn't get much at all that we needed, this is why. It makes no sense to have abandoned the trade in either goods or services, but it made much less sense to ignore services if you had to ignore one of them. Far more of our economy is in services than goods. Our biggest sector, the financial services, has been completely left out. For them, we have a no-deal Brexit. It is actually a no-deal Brexit for them. They've now given up on any attention from the government. They thought it would be insane. The government's going to have to do something, even if it's a side agreement. They've now given up any hope of that. And they're now looking ahead to what they actually can do without real access to the single market. But legal services are also important. They're worth about 3 or 4% of our total GDP. And the sector is large because we have a world-class reputation for these services. But if we suddenly can't offer them in one area, it hits others as well. And this is another case where we have to distinguish between the consequences of Brexit and the consequences of this extreme Tory Brexit, which nobody voted for, not in 2016, 2017 or 2019. This is a consequence of Brexit that wasn't even on the horizon last December as we signed the Trade and Cooperation Agreement and were about to exit the transition period. It came about because of one thing. Boris Johnson lied about supporting the withdrawal agreement just to get Brexit over the line and be allowed to be Prime Minister for a little while longer. It will cost our economy because Boris Johnson doesn't like committing himself to the protocol that he negotiated, agreed to, campaigned for and signed into law. And we know that the threats to our legal services sector won't change his mind or even influence it. He already abandoned to an even more lucrative financial services sector, when you literally won't lift a finger to even ease the situation for the largest sector of your economy, you will do nothing for any of them. I still don't get how one of our smallest sectors seriously thought he was batting for them. But anyway, there it is. It's not new news. Nothing has actually changed since April when I last talked about it. But I suppose as different media outlets decide it's time to talk about these things, it can rise to prominence again. More people can come into contact with it. But there it is. That is the situation. That will continue to be the situation while we continue to refuse to honour our own agreements. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.